Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to another canal update. In fact, it's canal update number 6. Can't believe we got to number 6 already. We only started around Christmas time here at the ocean looking at that bridge replacement project. Well, you're most welcome here today. What are we covering today? Of course, giving you an update, all the latest, what's happening at the ocean bridge there and how that project is continuing. We're then going to head some 5 miles to the east of here to a place called Brimscombe Port. It's the other side of Stroud. Lots of things happening there. We're going to have a look at their bookshop because that should be open today, so we have a look at that. They raise money by selling second-hand books for this project. It's an extraordinary bookshop, so bear with me. Also, we're going to have a look at the project to restore Brimscombe Port to the fantastic place that it used to be back in the 18th and 19th centuries. It was also the headquarters of the Thames Severn Canal. There is a lot of work happening down there, huge big project, and we're going to have a look at that in detail and tell you a little bit about the history of Brimscombe Port while we're there as well. So why not join me for another canal update here on West Country Wanderings. So the pilings that we saw last time have now gone in to the right of the bridge. Just make out a swan there, probably sussing out a place to nest. So there'll be probably 6 weeks from now that fence will be come down and that towpath will be reopened. That track to the right of the bridge there will also be infilled and smoothed off again soon as well as the works near their completion here. Of course, on the other side of the railway is a large compound. In fact, that was where that huge crane was over Christmas time. And again, over the next few weeks, that compound is going to be wound down. A lot of the soil substrate that was there and aggregates has now been moved off-site. There was a great big bank by the side of the main A419, the main M5 to Stroud road over the past few weeks. That's now gone. A lot of that material has now been removed onto other projects. So I will be back here again soon, probably at the end of March in only 6 or 7 weeks time. Well, I'll be doing a walk through that bridge, and that will probably be on, I would imagine, possibly date number 8, Canal Update 8, because 7 will either be at Siddington. Now, this structure behind me is known as the Marling Coal Pen. It was built in 1864, but why? Well, just down the road that way in Ryford is a mill. In fact, we covered it in the early days of West Country Wanderings here. If you go and check that out, I'll put in a link for that one as well. But the coal was brought in by the canal here and berthed alongside. You'd have the barges full of coal and they would moor up at the wharf and deliver the coal into this pen. And of course, because of the mill, it wasn't just powered by steam, it needed a lot of power. It also needed coal to power the steam engines which drove the machinery in the mill. Now, the building behind me, just beyond the trees, was once the Anchor Inn. In fact, it was known as a breakfast inn because it had a special licence to serve ale at breakfast time. And a lot of the crews, the people that worked on the canal here on the Stroudwater, would have breakfast there, probably have crafted 1 or 2 ales before they started, or maybe finishing their shift for the day if they're on the night shift, working alongside the canal. So this is immediately opposite this Ryford coal pen here at Ryford on the Stroudwater Canal. So I'm currently at Brimscombe. We've come 5 miles further to the east of where I started the video today, and this was once Brimscombe Mill. You can see it there. In fact, the building just next to it, that ugly building there, is actually going to be demolished. Now, in the 1960s, unwisely, the local council at the time decided to fill in Brimscombe Port, the whole of the basin, the huge canal basin that was once here, and completely built it up with light industrial units. And they were quite ticky-tacky type of corrugated, horrible type buildings, and not like this fantastic stone building that you see behind me at the moment. And they were put up to improve employment opportunities in the area, which is obviously a good thing, but not good in terms of how it was done. Now, because of funding from the National Lottery and plans that were submitted quite some time ago now, I think originally in 2014, this whole site is set for redevelopment here on the banks of the Stroudwater Canal. So the buildings also behind me are currently awaiting demolition. I think there was a hold up because they discovered asbestos in some of the buildings, which makes the demolition progress, well, a little bit more complicated, of course, because that needs to be removed first. So I think that's what's waiting on that before demolition can take place on these rather, I think you'll probably agree, ugly buildings which went up sometime in the 1960s. In fact, where I'm standing at the moment, this car park is where the basin would have been and also where the buildings were. So the whole huge canal basin complex here, and I'll insert some old photographs of Brimscombe Port round about now so you can see what it looked like in the canal heyday. It looked a lot more photogenic then than it does now. And also in front of me we have Brimscombe Mill, which is still quite delightful with the water going through it, but of course the canal just completely loses its trace here, its route completely abandoned. But that's what the intention is, to completely restore that again, so it will be a complete waterway again, so that the Brimscombe site here in the mill links through to Throught, where we did that walk just about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. I started just the other side of the west of Stroud and I walked through to Walbridge, where the Thames and Severn and Stroudwater canals meet, and I walked to Throught, and I just stopped the walk just shy of Brimscombe here, and obviously the intention is to open what is a missing piece of the canal here right through to the Throught section, where it has been restored all the way through to Stonehouse and that ocean bridge where we started the video here today. So the canal's filled in everywhere beyond this point. From that point there, as you can see in that fence there, everything was filled in right up to Brimscombe Port and indeed beyond before we get to Throught. All of that huge basin that was there previously from the shots I'll include now, that's what it used to look like. So part of the project, of course, is to, from this point onwards, is to reconnect the canal once more from here to Throught. So behind me is the Cotswold Canal Trust's bookshop. It's absolutely fabulous. I'll just include some photographs of the inside of it there. I've just picked up some books, including a couple of canal titles as well. So they sell some new titles of the canal series, and also lots of canals and railway books, and heaps of stuff on walks, not only in the Cotswolds but also across the wider West Country as well, and all over the UK. Brilliant selection of books, tons of fiction. I think they've got an offer at the moment, 5 paperbacks for £1.50, an absolute bargain, and all the proceeds go to the canal restoration on the Cotswold Canals, the Thames and Severn and Stroudwater. It's open 3 days a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays 10 to 4, and I'll drop a link into their website as well in the description below. And here we have yet another obstacle preventing the connection of the Thames and Severn to link it up where we was at Chalford the other day, and it's this railway bridge. It's obviously been changed since the original days of the canal, although I have got a potential solution. I don't know if that is the official solution for it, but I'll just show you some more. So that's our lock there opposite that mill, and Brimscombe Port is just to the far end of that bridge there, where we saw the dereliction and the buildings that are going to be demolished. That's our lock, and then that's the canal going around there, and then you come along here and obstacle, because there is a railway viaduct there. That's the main line between Swindon and Gloucester. Of course, the canal originally went through there, but it's been mucked around with since the original days, so I would imagine that the railway company, not sure which one, would have strengthened the embankment, similar to situation to what we had at the ocean. So that is going to need replacement at some time, because it's a difficult angle and very, very tight for narrow boats to get through there. Now, a potential solution is if you could restore the canal and put a cutaway through there, you could use that arch there to put the canal through that side. Not sure if it'll fit with a towpath as well, but I think that is a potential solution to the problem here, getting the canal once more back under the main railway line. So that's our narrow culvert where any water, in fact it's been bricked up. It's even worse than the situation at Stonehouse, and that explains why this section of the Thames and Severn is completely dry here on the west side of Brimscombe Port. And like the Anchor Inn we saw near the start of this video, the Ship Inn would have also provided accommodation, sustenance for the people that worked here at Brimscombe Port. So this is the extent of the canal from the Stroud direction beyond here. I'll just do a close-up of that there, as where the infill is going right through to Brimscombe Port, where we saw it on the other side at Bourne Lock, that double hybrid lock, which I'll mention more about in a bit. But yeah, this is as far as it goes, and obviously that will all need to be completely cleared out before any boats could get between here and Brimscombe again. Now, Brimscombe Port was primarily the work of one Thomas Cook. He signed an agreement with the Thames and Severn Canal Company on the 21st of December 1786. Thomas Cook was an architect, engineer and designer from nearby Painswick, just the other side of Stroud, and he started work here building an initial office block building by the side of the canal. This was extended into elaborate basins. In fact, it became the primary basin for the whole of the canal network and the busiest on the Thames and Severn Canal. In fact, it was designed not only for Thames barges, but also Severn Trows as well, because of course the Stroudwater Canal meets the Thames and Severn at Walbridge, which is a couple of miles further along, actually in Stroud itself. But Brimscombe was the transshipment point where the two canals met in terms of exchanging and storing of freight and goods. So why did Thomas Cook and the Thames and Severn engineers decide upon Brimscombe as their location for their biggest basin? Well, it's a geographical point. It's the highest point between the Stroud going towards the east, towards the River Severn, and it's at that point that the valley is its widest. There's a combination of highest point and widest point. Obviously at Walbridge there's a much narrower constricted space there, so that would not have been suitable to have had a huge wharf and storage space at that location. So Brimscombe was chosen. The lock immediately to the east of Brimscombe is known as Bourne Lock, and we had a look at that earlier where I said that the canal is the start of the infill. You have that large wall which was restored a few years ago. Now the reason that Bourne Lock is interesting is because it's a hybrid lock. It was built to take the 90-foot long Thames barges and also the 16-foot Severn Trows as well, because further east the Severn Trows couldn't get any further, and further to west the Thames barges couldn't pass. Just to give you an indication of how busy and important Brimscombe Port once was, is that the transshipment dues that came in as income to the Thames and Severn Canal were 3 times higher here than at any other point along the Stroudwater and Thames and Severn Canal network. Now, incredibly, it could actually hold 100 vessels at any one time, just to give you the scale of the operation and how big the site once was. It's very difficult to imagine it today with all those derelict factory buildings that I showed you the early part of the video, and obviously the tarmac which has infilled the original canal basin. One interesting security aspect was it has a middle island, so you had the two parts of the basin with the central section where there was a warehouse, and that smaller warehouse there was used to store coal because of course it was surrounded by water, which made it a lot more difficult for pilferers to steal the coal from Brimscombe Port. Now in terms of the building, you had one large main warehouse. You had to have a smaller warehouse, which is one where they used to store the coal. You had another building which was the Thames and Severn Canal headquarters. In fact, in later years that became a polytechnic. I'm not sure the year that it pops, around the 1940s, and sadly that has been demolished in the 60s, so-called redevelopment of the site. And you also had an agent's office as well, so there was quite extensive setup at Brimscombe Port. Now, in terms of materials and goods that were stored there, you had things like bran, cider, copper, lead and timber, just to name a few of the types of goods that were transported along this canal and used at the transshipment warehouse here at Brimscombe Port. Now Brimscombe Port was also equipped with 6 wharf cranes, and they could lift up to 10 tons, and initially they were made of wood, but in the later part of the 19th century, I think it's around the 1860s, they were replaced with cast iron type cranes, and it was the biggest operation, as I say, on the Thames and Severn and Stroudwater network. Now, another little interesting fact to leave you with about Brimscombe Port that I've managed to dig up from the extensive archives, in fact the Gloucester Library Archives series, and I'll put a link into the book where I've got this information from. It's got extensive records of the Thames and Severn Canal, possibly unique amongst all of the canals on the UK canal network, and it comes up with the actual fee that the wharfmen were paid in 1799. In terms of a daily rate, they were paid 1 shilling and 6pence, and I'll put what that is in today's money. But just 10 years later, so in 1809, they were then paid a grand sum of 11 shillings a week, and I'll do a comparison with that in the subtitle below. So what are the future plans? Just before I tell you the future plans of Brimscombe Port, just so that this bit has actually just been recently redredged. There's a dredger just down there, you can probably just see that. I'll do a closer bit in a minute. So this section's just been redredged, which is great. Unfortunately, at that end though, there's another bit of infill. I think it was called the Canal Ironworks. Maybe somebody will be able to give me some more information on that, because I can't find too much information on the ironworks section. But yeah, again, probably early 70s, all infilled again. And also you have those light industrial units, and some of them are which are abandoned and no longer used. And of course, the canal will need to be recut through that section there so it can connect to the Brimscombe Port end of things here. I've actually just been taken aback because the gentleman walking along the towpath, before I was doing my piece to camera, he actually stopped me and said, "Hi, are you Paul from West Country Wanderings?" And I was like, that's the first time that's ever happened. And before I go on, he gave me some leaflets here, and I'll do that there, and I'll do a closer image of it so you can see it. But it's to highlight, called a CanAmble walk here on the canal. It's actually on Sunday the 1st of May at 10 a.m. from Walbridge Lock here in Stroud, and it goes 7.5 miles to the Daneway Inn at Sapperton in Easter direction. I'll put all the details and links to that, all the information you need, in the description below. Really encourage you to take part in that, because obviously they're raising vital funds to enable this canal to be completely restored right through, well, eventually to Inglesham, as we saw the other day on the River Thames. So in terms of future development plans at Brimscombe Port, there's a number of things going to be done, and I'll just refer down to my list, so excuse me if my eyes dart down to my notebook. So the main thing is there's going to be a central public square, because at the moment the Brimscombe Mill site is private and you can't actually access the water feature there or anything like that, but there's going to be a central public square. The car park is going to be completely renovated. New vehicle access off the main A419 Stroud Cirencester Road. Now this is where it gets really interesting. There's going to be a new canal basin with mooring spaces, and not only that, there's going to be a canal winding hole, so they're going to have to build up a great big wide section to enable those narrow boats, the leisure boats, to be able to turn around at Brimscombe Port. There's also going to be a new community centre there, and a completely re-established canal tow berth, and also things like shops, cafes, all that sort of thing that we've seen in like we were at Diglis Basin in Worcester the other day. So yeah, really exciting project. Obviously I'm not sure the time schedules, if anybody knows the time schedules to complete it. Obviously it has been held up because of that asbestos work. I saw some men with the masks on, respirator and white suits, came out of one of those redundant buildings when I was walking back this way. So it is carrying on. I don't know, obviously, don't know the timescales for anything else. And obviously they have to do the work here to get it through what was the ironworks site with those light industrial units. Another gentleman's just recognised me and said to me that one of the factories has expanded outwards recently, which is going to cause a bit of a problem. You can still get the canal through, but it's going to be a bit tighter. So sometimes not everybody's pulling in the right direction in terms of getting this canal through. It's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 back. But yeah, that's the future plans. Lots of exciting things happening. Just wrap things up for today. I hope you enjoyed update number 6 here on West Country Wanderings. There'll be another canal update on the Stroudwater and Thames Severn. Not too far away, as I say, we'll be covering things like Siddington and Sapperton Tunnel, and also the Cotswold Water Park. They'll all be coming up over the next few weeks. And obviously, as new information comes, new plans come in, developments happen, and also that towpath going through the railway, the Midland Railway at Stonehouse at Ocean. I'll be covering that as well in March. So it's all happening. So hit that subscribe, hit that bell, and you'll find out when that video lands on my channel. There'll be other canal videos coming up. Obviously, I've done one most recently on the Cadburys and canals, which included the site at Frampton, as well as Blackpool and Worcester and Bourneville and Birmingham. The story of that seems to be well received. If you have not seen that yet, worth checking out. But the main thing I'd like to mention today is, if you live locally or within a reasonable distance of the Stroudwater and Thames and Severn Canals, and you're interested in canals, please do everything you can to support them. And the best way you can do that is by going to their visitor centres, purchasing from their fantastic bookshop here at Brimscombe Mill. You really need to check it out. I was blown away. As I say, I can't believe I hadn't been visited before, but it's spectacular amount of books that they have there. But check that out. I'll also check out that sponsor walk in May, and I'll put the links in the description below. Hope you enjoyed it today. If you did, please consider a like, subscribe, a share or comment. Until next time, take care, look after yourselves, all the best. I hope to see you on West Country Wanderings again very soon. All the best now. Cheers, goodbye.